Okay. So yeah, so I said a little hi, introduced who I am, but we're not here for me. We're here for Shanil Prasad to learn about the day in the life of an Amazon security engineer. So I met Shanil this summer, and we talked about a collaboration together just to get more information out about different opportunities at Amazon, particularly in security engineer. I have a little bio on Shanil, so I'm going to read it. Shanil works as a security engineer at Amazon with a focus on software and mobile security. His role involves conducting security assessments, providing security guidance to development teams, and is starting to build out our mobile security program. Although he's on the application security team, he has plenty of experience in other areas such as cyber incident response, regulatory compliance, and cloud security. He went to school for IT networking and computer forensics at Highline College and just finished the ITAM program at CW. Woohoo! Before Amazon, Shanil worked at the Walt Disney Company, where he conducted penetration tests on all of our Disneyland rides you enjoy. I feel so much better riding those things, know that you conducted those tests. Thank you.
Yeah, it is definitely the happiest place on earth for sure. So cool. Yeah, thanks for the intro, Merity. And I'll start off by giving a little bit more background about myself. Like Merity said, I've been at Amazon for a little over a year now. Before that, I was an engineer at the Walt Disney Company for about 4 years. And before that, I actually worked at Expedia when they were in Bellevue for about 3.5 years. I went to school at Highline College, got my degree in IT networking. I actually started the ITAM program back in 2012, but ended up dropping out because I got a full-time job at Expedia, and the person in me, I'm like, well, why do I need to finish school if I have a full-time job? So I ended up not finishing the program around 2012, and then I ended up deciding to finish it up this last year. So last quarter was my final quarter. Now I'm done. I'm an ITAM graduate, and yeah, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to at least collaborate with Merity and like the ITAM students to at least give a little bit of a taste of like what it is to be like a security engineer. Like I get that question a lot from students. Is like, hey, what do you do for a living? So we can take a look at the agenda here. I'll talk a little bit about what my team does specifically and what our scope is. A normal day, what does that look like for me? What makes Amazon security unique? There's actually multiple security teams in Amazon, not just like one. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And mainly, and the main thing, the open roles that we have on my team specifically, I know graduates are probably really interested in like getting an entry-level job or like an internship. So we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. And I'm not going to try to do a lot of talking. Maybe my presentation will be 15 to 20 minutes. I really want to leave room for questions and give the opportunity for students to like ask any questions that they may have. So we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. And yeah, I'll hang around if needed, if you want some one-on-one time, or if you have something that you don't want to ask during the presentation and you want to ask after, that's totally fine too. Yeah, so we'll get started. So like Merity said, I'm a security engineer, but the scope of what our team does is actually securing all the tech used in fulfilling, transporting, and delivering customer orders. So think of like when you receive your Amazon package at your doorstep. It's actually gone through a lot of processes in the like behind the scenes to get to where it is. Like at your doorstep. So there's like inbound, like receiving the items in these buildings that you see here called fulfillment centers. We have, hundreds of these across the globe. And this is where like all of your Amazon items are stored. They're packaged, they're shipped, they've got shipping labels on them. That's where the drivers come and pick them up and eventually get to your doorstep. So the scope of my team is basically whatever technologies support this process. That's essentially what my team is trying to secure. And this is kind of what the inside of a fulfillment center looks like. They're pretty much these massive, massive warehouses. I'm sure if you try to walk around the warehouse, the perimeter, you'll get your cardio for the day. Like these are like 10 football fields long of just inventory. And, you know, I can see like conveyor belts going like north, south, east, west. And you know, we have hundreds of associates working, you know, at any given time. They're using like these scanners to scan packages and get them to their destinations. And so like that's essentially the security that we're doing. Like, you know, like the scanners, for example, like how can we ensure that that's secure? The conveyor belts, how do we ensure that they're secure and they're not like a human safety hazard? What about the applications that associates have to use in order to fulfill orders? So like I said, there's a lot that goes behind the scenes that I think customers don't really realize. And how we break it down is kind of three parts. So the first mile is like the inbound of inventory, like maybe from a vendor, right? So we'll inbound items from a vendor, then we'll actually stow them. And it's all computerized. It's not like these are stowed randomly in random locations. It's all kind of in a central system. So like when you press order on something, then Amazon knows exactly where that item is, and the associate knows where to go and pick that item. And then the last mile is essentially packing that up, ship, and essentially getting it to your doorstep. So that is kind of fulfillment in a nutshell, and that's what our team really specializes on. So this slide, well, because I mean, we're in Washington State, this should be a little familiar to you. This presentation usually goes out to like out-of-state universities as well. But I mean, if you're any familiar with downtown, this is downtown Seattle. As you can see, this is the Space Needle. Our team has been primarily focused in Seattle. And you can see like the classic three spheres of Amazon. And if you don't know about Amazon, you can like associates can go into that space and work, and it's kind of like a cool rainforest inside. It's like a very earthy vibe, as you can see like in the photos here. So it's kind of a neat place to work, like if you want like a change of scenery and things like that. Obviously, it's a little different now because of COVID. Like people haven't been going into the offices and such, but you know, Amazon owns like, I feel like they own half of downtown at this point. And this is one of like the cool buildings that I think people like to go in and work on if they want like a change of scenery. Outside of Seattle, I mean, we're a pretty like worldwide team. We have co-workers in California, East Coast, Boston, kind of you name it. Like we have essentially like a central hub somewhere like Arizona, Texas, and we're trying to expand more and more, and we're hiring more and more. So, you know, I think the takeaway here is like, yeah, Seattle has been the main hub, but we do have, especially like with COVID times, like we're trying to be more flexible with virtual. So you may not necessarily have to be in Seattle, but it is our main hub. And if you do have the option of also going into the office if you'd like to. That may change depending on how the COVID situation goes. Like I still have an office there. I never go to it. I'm typically working from home. But you know, this might be something cool to check out once we get into a normal state, whatever that may be. So like, what does my day-to-day look like? Yeah, like I said, this is a question that I get asked a lot. It's a little bit of everything, but primarily what we do are security reviews. So basically, these are teams that come and say, hey, we're doing this project. We want to make sure that it's sound for security, like we don't have any critical vulnerabilities, and we want to make sure that we're safe and secure when we go and launch this thing at the end. And kind of that within the security review, there's like 3 different steps. Before we do any sort of testing on the application, most of this is done in paper. Like there's an architecture document that the developers have to come up with that say like, okay, this is how our system works. And then we'll review that for security and also do a threat model on it, which means that, okay, like for this part of the system, like how are you securing that? And how do we mitigate that part? A good example would be like if there's sensitive information involved, for example, maybe a customer address. Okay, like how are we using that customer address? Do we have to encrypt it? How are you encrypting it? And we kind of answer all of those questions on paper and model all of that before we go and build a thing. So once we go build the application, the penetration testing part comes in, and that's essentially just kind of validating, okay, we said we're going to encrypt this. We said we're going to put this security control in there. Is that really the case? So it's more of a validation step. And that's essentially the kind of the 3 steps that we do in terms of security reviews. So there's a lot of work that happens ahead of time in terms of like planning and modeling everything to make sure like the testing is as expected, because we don't want to find like 10 critical vulnerabilities at the end and then they have to go back and fix all of them. It's kind of a waste of time. So like the more you can plan ahead, it's kind of the smoother everything else goes. Like the testing will be as expected and like everything will launch on time and everybody's happy. So that's the majority of the work. We also get consultation requests. So this is kind of consulting with developers because they don't have a security background, right? So we'll get questions on like, hey, is there an encryption library that I should use? Or is there a policy, like a security policy on how to use this application? So we'll get tons of different requests on security, and we just have to take them case by case. So they're not really reviews, they're kind of like advice. I'm like, okay, how can I do this securely? We also do the developer training. So as the application security team, there's common vulnerabilities like cross-site scripting and SQL injection, and we work with the developers to kind of train them on how they can code more securely so they don't even run into those issues at the end. And like we recommend tools that they can use to help with them, and things along those lines. Another cool thing that we try to do, and I think what's unique to Amazon, and I'll get into this a little bit more, is solving security challenges at scale. So typically, like in a university environment like you guys are in, you'll talk about certain security topics, like, okay, this is like what a SQL injection is, for example, and you fix that one SQL injection and that's it. Well, because Amazon is so massive, it's not like we can fix one SQL injection and that's it. We kind of have to think bigger and try to solve things at scale. So we have like that one vulnerability, but in thousands of applications. Obviously, we can't hire 1,000 engineers to solve every little thing. Like that just doesn't scale. Obviously, the math doesn't work there. So how can we automate things to make them easier to solve these security problems at scale? And I think that's a really unique challenge to Amazon. It's like you have to identify once, but really think long-term and think like, okay, how can I identify the rest of these and how can I remediate these? Like, how do I ensure that, this doesn't happen again? Like, what's the long-term vision there? And that's kind of the unique challenge at Amazon, is because we're so massive. It's like you can find one thing, but you really have to think on a larger scale. And lastly, we do a little bit of security research. this is more of like if we're really interested in something that we want to get into, maybe outside of application security, maybe cloud security, maybe incident response, we do have some time allocated to that. And I'll go into why we sort of do that too. Cool. So yeah, so like I was saying, the scale of Amazon is massive. So like I said, the scope of what our team does is just kind of the fulfillment center space and packaging, but we also have security teams specifically for Prime Video, Alexa, physical stores, Amazon.com, Prime Air is another one. So there's just so many businesses, and they all have their own security teams because of their unique like business challenges, right? Like Alexa devices, like their security concerns or controls is not going to be the same as ours, right? So they have to be very specialized in what they do. And the cool thing about Amazon, I think, is like, hey, if I join Amazon and I'm an engineer here for 1 or 2 years and I feel tired of it, or if I want something new, I can easily go into one of these other businesses and get into something else. Maybe I want to do privacy, maybe I want to do incident response. So because Amazon's so big, it gives employees that flexibility. And I feel like we kind of want people to do that too, right? We don't want people to get bored. We want people to really challenge themselves and explore new areas, right? You'll be passionate about, maybe I'll be passionate about application security, which I am, but if I ever wanted to change, there's always going to be opportunity for me to kind of move around. And I've given some examples here, like identity access management, IR, red team, and they all have their different challenges. So that's kind of unique about Amazon too, is like you don't have to go out and find a job somewhere else. It's like you can really just be within the Amazon umbrella and find like what interests you and what you're passionate about and what you want to work on. And we do really try to make people do that. And a little bit about ownership that's unique about Amazon as well. It's like kind of back to the scale and the example that I gave is like, hey, if you find something, it's not like you are going to hand it off to somebody like, go and fix this. No, that's not how it works at Amazon. It's like, if you find the issue, you find the solution, you find the long-term vision with it, and then work with teams to fix it. So that's kind of the sense of ownership that Amazon really drives, and at kind of at the scale that I've talked about before. Like, you find it once, and then how do we automate it? How do we make it easier to find it the next time? How do we make it easier to find it at scale? So yeah, I tend to see like, yeah, university students have like this small scope of like the classroom, and that's fine, but like at a company as big as Amazon, you really have to think big, and you have to think long term and critically about what we're doing and how we can make it easier long term. And I do have an example of kind of how we've done that in the past. So an example here is like, we found a vulnerability that was in AWS that wasn't just in our scope of like fulfillment centers and such, but it was also in retail, Prime Video, Alexa. So it wasn't like I handed it off like, oh, I'm only going to do my stuff, Alexa Video, you go fix yours, Prime Video, you do yours. No, we actually developed mechanisms to detect this vulnerability. And because Amazon is such an old company, there's actually good tooling in place that you can actually build detections on top of. So like, the platform's already there. Think of this as just like another detection that you build on top of the platform to detect vulnerabilities. And you can just run campaigns at scale at that point. So not only are you remediating things that you're responsible for, but you're making the whole company more secure, right? Just because you're thinking big and you're thinking critically about, okay, how can I make this easier for everybody? And so I think this is a really good example of that, is just yeah, you find something, but you really do have to think big. And like in this case, like the whole Amazon corporation really benefit it from that. So yeah. Lastly, these are the two open job roles that I think we have on the website amazon.jobs today. I did throw in the internship one in there as well, because I know a lot of students are probably looking for internships. So yeah, take a screenshot or take a photo of this. And if you put in those job IDs, they should pop up. So the security engineering internship is actually it actually goes through our student programs group. So it's not directly with my group, but we can definitely pass on a referral if you're interested in the internship part. The second one there, the application security engineer, that's the role that's specifically on my team. So if you're looking for like a full-time role and you're interested, take a look at the job description, see if it interests you. And we can chat about, if it's a good fit for you. And, maybe we can, like, another thing I've done is I've looked at resumes before, just in general. A lot of students typically aren't very confident in their resume writing skills, which is totally fine. I'm happy to even look at resumes and like give my honest feedback. But yeah, like these are essentially the two roles that are open right now. I will say that we are hiring a lot. We are going to be hiring a lot throughout the whole year. We have a lot of open headcount coming up. And the Amazon process is a little janky in terms of like openings and stuff. So like if you're interested, just let me know and I can probably give you the latest information. Like the job site may not like have an opening, but we might have something coming up. So yeah, just shoot me an email or a LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn as well. Feel free to add me and I can provide guidance wherever I can. So yeah, and with that, I'll go into Q&A. And yeah, I can answer whatever questions you guys may have as best I can.
Hey, Chanel, I just wanted to clarify, and actually that's a kind of a question too, is that when I went and looked at the security engineer job position,
Mhm.
I think I could imagine how it would be a little intimidating to an ITAM student.
Yep.
How much experience are you looking for that particular role, and like what kind of experience in school and stuff counts?
Yeah, so it's a little, like I said, it's a little awkward how it's posted on the website. We're actually hiring at all levels. So think of the job description, like take it as a very generic description of like what our team does. But like we just hired somebody straight out of college. Like, so as like, so we have like senior security engineer and then like an associate level and then like a mid-level too. So take the job description, take a read at it, but don't think that you need 10 years of experience and a PhD and whatever. Um, think of it as like, this is what our team does. Does it interest you? Cool. Like let's have a further conversation. But to answer your question, yeah, we're definitely hiring students out of university. Like that's definitely like a possibility. Anyone else? It's a quiet group.
I mean, I get questions about working at Amazon like all the time. So this is your opportunity, you all. Like, it's so great to hear the insider information on it. And I know that I know it's an intimidating process because I've been working with students on it. So this is a great time to kind of get insider information.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Amazon hiring process is a little, like, it can be a little intimidating, but um, you know, you guys can work through it. You're all smart, and I'm happy to help with that too if it gets to that point.
So hello.
Hey, yeah.
Hey, if I had to look at my resume, where would I send that to?
You could send it to me
Send it to
directly.
email?
I think Merity also, you said there's a different event going on for that as well, right? Or did you
Well,
mention something like
we,
that?
we do have resume events. I'm not running one, but there's probably, I mean, every quarter we have them. What I would say, I'm not too sure, Holly, if your question is, if you want specific advice regarding, you know, a security engineer, or would you like more general advice from career services? Yeah, I guess that's my question.
Right.
He indicated that he would look at our resume and give his honest opinion on what, you know, how I could, you know, they could critique it to make it look better or something to that effect. I don't have a lot of experience, but the experience I have, I think is really good. So
Yeah, for sure.
perfect.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. I can go into some general advice that I've always given students, is always, so when you go and apply for roles online, try to tailor your resume to match what the job description is looking for, right? So look at the keywords that the job description is like talking about. Is it incident response? Is it specific tools? Is it you know, specific processes that they're looking for? And try to really incorporate that into your resume, and try to make your resume tell a story as well. It's like, don't give like one-liners on something that has no context, because that doesn't mean anything to me. Tell a story. What did you do? What like what projects did you work on? What did you do? Like, tell a story about like what your experience is, and how it can relate to like what you're applying for. That's typically the trend I've seen with like a lot of university resumes that I've reviewed so far. Is like they have a lot of bullet points, but it doesn't tell me a story. They're just kind of bullet points. So you really have to, like, if you can like really tell me a story, it kind of excites me as like a resume reviewer. It's like, okay, like this person has done like some really cool stuff. So that's kind of my general advice. If you want me to take a look like from like a security, like engineering, I guess, lens, I'm happy to do that. But like as Merity said, I'm sure CWU has a lot of great resources too that you could take advantage of just for general like advice. Hopefully that helps.
I just realized the event you were talking about, Chanel. I'm sorry, it just drew a blank. Is it tomorrow? I am doing an event at 4 o'clock
Okay.
regarding ITAM graduate students. Yeah, so sorry about that. Yeah, and I'm going to talk about marketing your graduate skills. So some of the graduate students were talking to the professors, and they were saying, you know what, once I get this graduate school degree, you know, how is it that it helps me in the job market, and how can I market it? So yeah, we're doing that at 4 o'clock tomorrow. And the link is on the Career Services events website. So yeah.
Awesome.
We also have a question in chat. It says, do these security engineer jobs require security clearances to apply?
Good question. So the ones that I posted here don't, but they are, if you go on the Amazon.job site, some of them do, just depending on what part of the org you're applying to. Like I said, there's Prime Video, Prime Air, there's AWS. So it just depends on the team that you're applying to. And it typically will say in the job description if you need a security clearance or not. But like for like, at least for the two that I've mentioned here, you don't need a clearance.
Feel free, if you're shy, to put the questions in chat too.
Yeah, it works too. have no more, then I think we can call it good.
Okay, yeah, no, so last call, no questions? Oh, did I hear somebody trying to get on or not?
Here's something.
Is that Susan? Are you trying to ask a question? Yeah, we can't quite hear you. I think you want to mute it and maybe try chat. Huh. Okay, I'm not too sure what's going on there. Well, oh, there we go. Oh wait. Some students are interested more in sustainability. Is that sort of a statement at sustainability in Amazon, or is there a link with your role? Like the link to the job description? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, here, I might have to, yeah, there we go. Yeah, there's something was going on with the sound there. So how would we prepare students in general? Oh, this must be for a professor, from a professor. Like how would the professors prepare the students in general for this type of role?
Yeah, so that's a good question too. I think what worked for me and what I've seen trending is like be close with technology, like try to be as hands-on as you can. So like in class, if you can have projects or curriculum that really make students do things hands-on, like it could be like setting up like a virtual lab environment and exploiting like vulnerabilities, or teaching students on how a specific type of attack works, or like something with virtual machines. I feel like just being or coding, even like scripting, basic scripting, like being close with coding, because I feel like everything is going into like software development and coding these days. So I feel like the more hands-on that you can give to students, the better curiosity will spike with students as well. Like, okay, like I've learned the basics, maybe I can do more with this. And that really tells a story to employers too. Like, hey, like I set up a whole home security network in my home, and like I have all these cool tools, and this is what I do. And that really shows like how much time and effort and passion you have around cyber, like around maybe it's network security, maybe it's application security. So I think giving students the tools and the technology to give them those opportunities is important. It's not just like reading a book and doing a test. Like, yeah, that's fine, but that's just all kind of theory. Like, yeah, you kind of know it in your head, but you never really implemented it anywhere. You never really applied it anywhere. And that's what I think employers care about, is like, okay, what did you do? Like you've read a lot, you know a lot, but what have you done? Right. And that's what kind of matters at the end of the day.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully that answered your question, Susan.
And anyone else have any last questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, Chanel. We really appreciate it. So great to hear more about what you do at Amazon. And of course, I love having alums, somebody that actually graduated even recently from this program and worked the entire time when you were here. So, exactly. in a professional role. So thank you for sharing your story. Really appreciate it. And,
yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me, and hopefully if it makes sense, we can do it again at some time.
That sounds great. I'd appreciate that. Great. And
Great.
for the rest of you, I'll post this link. I'll post this on YouTube too. So I noticed a couple people came late, and so you can have an opportunity to look at it on our YouTube channel later. It'll probably be posted by probably next week. So thank you. Thanks all.
Cool.
Have a great night.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.